Most people who write about the future or who write about technological or scientific driven change, they tend to be either utopian books. Oh, we're all going to grow up to be happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise, so you can hear kumbaya in the background. Or they're dystopian. They're sort of written from the fetal position. I think that this book is a little different in that I consider myself a realistic idealist. And because I think that our lives are neither utopian nor dystopian, and I try to describe the world to come a little bit in as realistic terms as possible. And so briefly, some of the subjects that I write about in this book are, number one, the rise of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and robotics. I believe that the robots of the cartoons and movies from the 1970s are going to be the reality of the 2020s. The combination of the mathematical breakthrough in modeling belief space, which took things that were previously very complex for robots, like grasping, which might seem really straightforward, but is actually very difficult to model mathematically. Breakthroughs in mathematics in modeling belief space combined with cloud robotics, the idea that a device doesn't have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars in hardware and software in it, but rather can be a relatively low-cost, lightweight device, means that automation and robotics specifically are going to be able to go from doing things that are manual and routine to cognitive and non-routine. And so when you think about automation, the people whose jobs were displaced in the last wave of globalization, like the men that I worked with on the midnight shift, mopping up in the Charleston Civic Center, the next wave is actually going to impact what I would call sort of low-level white-collar workers. I think about my father. My father has worked very hard for 45 years as a sort of a country lawyer in Hurricane, West Virginia, where most of what he's done is real estate closings. So preparing sort of 9-inch tall stacks of paper that you sign for half an hour 40 times. It requires cognition, but there's also a lot of repetition in it. So the jobs that have been displaced over the last 20 years have been largely rooted in displacing work that's rooted in the strength of somebody's shoulders. The kind of work that's going to be displaced next is the kind of work that my father did for 40 plus years. Again, white collar, but sort of very rooted oftentimes in repetitive work. Another field that I focus on significantly in the book is the commercialization of genomics. The world's last trillion-dollar industry was created out of computer code. The world's next trillion-dollar industry is going to be created out of genetic code. We're now about 15 years past the mapping of the human genome, and we're finally at the point where I believe we're probably 3 years away from personalized medicine in a way that's unrecognizable from the way in which we've gotten medicines, prescriptions in the past.